It's so partisan. It's so divided. There's this constant tug of war, and we just can't really get through it. All right, Twitter files, y'all. Twitter files have been released, and here's what we're going to do today. We are going to talk about the Twitter files conceptually, and I'm going to recommend that you go and you subscribe to Matt Taibbi's Substack. You can also check out the Free Press from Barry Weiss. Also out there at the Free Press, bring me on board. Yeah, I'm open to it. Anyway, so the Twitter files. I really wanted to just talk about them as I've been keeping up with this mostly through Taibbi, but I've read, I don't even know how many articles, and they're all long as shit, but I've been trying to keep up with what's going on here and trying to understand and zoom out and just kind of look at the broader picture here and look at the implications of this and how this is going to play long term, what it means, where we've seen it before. And I think when we look at the whole situation, what stresses me out the most, what really concerns me the most is the connection to the FBI and the intelligence community, which really makes up a large portion of the deep state, right? Like these institutional actors for institutions that we've long lost trust in, that have proven themselves to be inadequate, incompetent, and malicious in many cases. These organizations are policing speech. I mean, they're looking at very low follower, low engagement accounts, having them banned, reporting misinformation. They're in bed with Twitter. They're in bed with Instagram. I'm shadow banned so hard. I'm on some kind of blacklist on Instagram. And here's the thing. They'll never admit it. We're acting as if this is just a Twitter thing. This is a Twitter thing, an Instagram thing, a YouTube thing. It's wild. It's wild. And it's disgusting. And it's unjust. That being said, when I look at it and it's like, yeah, this is the way it shook out this time is very partisan. But when we look at any of this stuff and let's just think about the Republican establishment and the Democratic establishment, they're going to use whatever they can to get votes. The incentives of that market they exist in push them towards getting votes by whatever means necessary. If that means that no voter ID, if no voter ID is better for the Democrats want it. If voter ID checks are better for the Democrats want that. It's not a principled decision. It's what will help them, right? Restricting voters, making it harder to vote is better for Republicans. So Republicans want to make it harder to vote. Making it easier to vote is better for Democrats. So Democrats want to make it easier to vote. There's no principle in that. That's 100% self-serving, narcissistic cultural expression. Like that's what that is. 100%. It's Machiavellian in a certain way. So when I see that, yes, the way the Twitter files have been shared definitely show a partisan lean one way or the other. I do want to zoom out from that and really look at this and say, and this is not, believe me, I'm not letting the Democrats off the hook. It's gross and I hate it. Like what they did here is inexcusable. And the entitlement in doing so is probably the worst part. The fact that they felt entitled to be able to do what they've done at Twitter and on social media and policing our discourse when they have a track record that looks like absolute shit when it comes to being right about things. I mean, hey, do you trust the people who brought you the food pyramid? Like, give me a fucking break. We live in a psyop. Like, this is a joke. This is an absolute joke. And will Meta be called in and asked how they're doing things? I know if they turned off their shadow ban shit, I'd have 30,000 followers tomorrow. And that's hurting my lifestyle. I'm having to reevaluate my entire business to go around these motherfuckers. Right? And I'm not even a conservative. But I share some opinions with some conservatives, and that's enough. That's enough to call me a right-wing extremist and put me on a blacklist. I appreciate it, Instagram. I appreciate it. I hope your whole... Oh, you know what? I can't say that. Never mind. Anyways, moving back to Twitter files, getting out of my personal life, I look at this and I think, okay, it's kind of like a two-way McCarthyism, right? Like you're seeing, and we've seen this a lot, like fascist, insurrectionist, groomer, racist, whatever. It's like all of these, we're just throwing insults at each other, accusing people of all kinds of things. And what it seems like is think about back in the kind of the second Red Scare in the 1940s and 50s, you had this McCarthy era where people were being accused of being gay or being socialist or being communist all the time in Hollywood, in government, all kinds of shit. And when we look at this and we think about the way that our world is shaking out now, it's kind of like that on both sides. And both sides have a little bit of leverage. When it comes to tech, Democrats have the most leverage. But in other areas, Republicans have a shit ton of leverage, right? If you think that oil and gas companies don't do what they can to make Joe Biden look bad, I got a bridge to sell you, my dude. Like there's industry captured by politics and there's politics captured by industry. It's a circle jerk of bullshit, right? And you know who gets in the circle jerk? Me and you, right? It's a big club, and we ain't in it. So let's break down McCarthyism, and I want to show you some of the similarities here. So McCarthyism is the practice of making false or unfounded accusations of subversion and treason, especially related to anarchism, communism, and socialism, and especially when done in a public and attention-grabbing manner. What does that sound like? The term originally referred to controversial practices and policies of U.S. Senator Joseph McCarthy, who allegedly liked boys. And I mean boys, not men, and has its origins in the period of the United States known as the Second Red Scare, lasting from the late 1940s through the 1950s. It was characterized by heightened political repression and persecution of left-wing individuals, and a campaign spreading fear of alleged communism and socialism or interference on American institutions, and of the espionage of Soviet agents. After the mid-1950s, McCarthyism began to decline, mainly due to Joseph McCarthy's gradual loss of public popularity and credibility after several of his accusations were found out to be false, and sustained opposition from the U.S. Supreme Court, led by Chief Justice Earl Warren, on human rights grounds. The Warren Court made a series of rulings on the civil and political rights that overturned several key laws in legislative districts and helped bring the end to the Second Red Scare. So tell me that what we have going on right now isn't a version of mere McCarthyism, right? A lot of this, when it comes to social media and this public displays, are aimed at accusations, unfounded accusations of whatever the convenient ism is of the time, thrown at people that are even calling someone a conservative is an insult in many cases. That people been calling Matt Taibbi a conservative journalist, and he's not. He's on the left. Right? He's in that, like, there's me and him and 14 other people on that version of the left, right? It's very odd. It's very odd. I would put us all on the politically homeless left, but hey, it is what it is. But yeah, we're in here and we're looking at this and we're thinking, all right, like, this is huge. And this came from a U.S. senator. It came from an institution. So when we see things like Yoel Roth here saying, it happens. I'm a big believer in calendar transparency, but I reached a certain point where my meeting became very interesting to people and there weren't meeting names generic enough to cover. So what he's saying is he's having a hard time faking his case calendar as public to the company, and he's having trouble putting in fake names that sound believable enough when he's meeting with the fucking FBI. He says, very boring business meeting. That's definitely not about Trump. Winky face. Pretty much. Definitely not the meeting with the FBI. I swear. That's from Slack. And this other person says, laugh my ass off. So this guy's meeting with the FBI about Trump tweets. Like, they're obsessed with this shit. Right? And they found a way to ban him, even though they admitted in their Slack channels that it was a problem and that he hadn't technically overstepped the community guidelines they were accusing him of overstepping. It's just a weird deal. And I don't defend Trump. You guys know how I feel about the guy. I just went on a rant. But, like, the dude should have been taken off of Twitter. That first head of state to ever be taken off Twitter. That's insane. And some heads of state say some crazy shit. You know what I mean? So the way that Matt framed this, I really thought was important. Because, again, I'm more concerned about the FBI, CIA, those institutions than I am about the DNC and the RNC, because they don't have principles, right? Their sole focus is getting votes, getting reelected. That's it. So if it was the Republicans that had this same leverage, they would have used it in the same way, and they would be defending it in the same way that the Democrats are now. There isn't a principle there. That being said, I'm very honest in saying, yes, this was pressure from the left suppressing voices mostly on the right. Clear and plain as day. I'm not contesting that in any stretch of the imagination. I just think if it was reversed politically, the exact mirror image of what's happening now would be happening then, right? There's another fork in the metaverse, right? where that happened. When in the multiverse, there's a little fork where the Republicans have Twitter on their side, and we're in the exact opposite of what we are now. But the fun thing is, if you're saying the same thing, regardless of whether it was Republicans or Democrats, well, my friend, you might have principles. Weird, right? So Matt framed this in a really interesting way. He says, this is a chance for ordinary Americans to see from the inside how their tax dollars have been spent to building an elaborate, systemized method of censorship and opinion control. Think about that, opinion control, with agencies like DHS, the DOJ, FBI at the helm. These enforcement agencies are not fighting or investigating crime or even, say, terror plots. They're just collecting domestic intelligence on a grand scale and seeing how to distort the public's perception of reality through mass moderation via programs we're being told little to nothing about, or being told they're frankly conspiracy theories, right? Which is also a term crafted by the same blob in the intelligence community to discourage people from asking questions about the JFK assassination. That's where the term conspiracy theorist comes from. And what I think when I look at this whole situation with the Twitter files, I think and the rich people out there, the super the super wealthy, the don't hate something because it's big and successful, right? Like those folks, which has been a justification for like not applying antitrust laws for so long. But this is why I think antitrust enforcement is really important. Republicans will never do this, by the way. Republicans are too cowardly and lack too many principles to actually enforce antitrust. And the Supreme Court will say that literally anything is legal for corporations to do. Buy elections, mistreat their employees, bonus themselves out on bailouts. Like the Supreme Court is just gobbling up corporations' dicks. That's what's happening. I mean, that's what they've been doing for years and years and years. We get all butthurt about like Roe versus Wade and whatever. But like at the end of the day, they have a job, and it's to get on their knees for corporations and tell them, yes, daddy. Yes, you can do whatever you want, daddy. That's what Amy Coney Barrett's job is. Right? That's what they do. It's gross. It's embarrassing, and they should be ashamed of themselves. Right? It doesn't matter, too. I mean, I can Sotomayor. Doesn't matter. Anybody. I don't know. What's the other guy's name that's on there that was like, I don't know, boofing or something? That guy? Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's the same people with the same, they have so much overlap. They're a uniparty just like the Democrats and the Republicans. It's a joke. And they keep us torn up over bullshit. But at the end of the day, they're giving Hummers to corporations. That's the role of the Supreme Court in our modern politics. It's gross. Anyways, but when we look at this whole thing, this is why I think antitrust enforcement is super important when it comes to social media platforms and media outlets in general. Because if we just think about this, without the amount of leverage that they had, it's these gigantic conglomerations, they wouldn't have been able to shut Parler down, right? Think about how much different Instagram would be if it was never acquired by Facebook or anybody else. It was its own company, right? Now, all mergers and acquisitions are by nature anti-competitive, so there is a line to be drawn there. But when it comes to public dissemination of information, if Instagram was its own entity, Twitter was its own entity, WeChat, right? All of these different social media companies, by not letting them gobble each other up and turn into these mega corporations like Meta that own so much shit, like Coca-Cola, you can't, like anything that's up and coming that would be competitive, they just buy it. And if you don't support competition in that way, you're not a fan of capitalism. You're a fan of cronyism, right? You're a fan of an oligarchy. That's what you're in support of. If you're going to cuck out and say, no, why would you punish success, bruh? Why would you punish success? I'm a libertarian, bruh. I think we should all be successful. I would like to make $1 billion, bruh. And I'm like, you're a idiot. Shut up. Don't talk like that. Get your shit together. Think about this. There's way bigger things at play here. So if we look at the whole thing and we say, hey, we could look at this, we could break this down. And that way Facebook doesn't have control over Instagram and Twitter doesn't have control over WeChat. All these other things, we don't have that. So there's actual competition. We can look at them one at a time, and they can compete with one another when it comes to moderation and what's the appropriate amount of moderation. They can try different things. Oh my God, am I a capitalist? Oh my God, am I talking about the power of the market? Weird how that works, right? Weird how it works and can be applied, but those mergers never should have been allowed to go through. And that's why I like Lina Khan. I don't think Lina Khan, who's in charge of that now in the Biden administration, probably the best person in that administration, is actually holding people's foot to the fire and asking real questions, right? Which is why nobody on the right wants to talk about her, except for a handful of populists that are actually down with what she has to say. So it's interesting to me to look at that and say, hey, um, it's important. It matters. It matters. I also think there should be legislation that says if I appeal, there needs to be transparency, and I want to have a conversation with a person. Right now on Instagram, I've been accused of nudity. That was not. I don't even know what they're talking. Like I can't even watch the video they're accusing me of nudity in. It was also 2 years ago, and it was a post like this one that you're watching right now. So it's like I don't know what the it is. I don't think I was nude or talked about nudity or sexual exploitation at all in that video. And I don't know why it's being flagged for that, but it doesn't really matter because I appeal to an AI and it tells me, oh, it's upheld. Sorry, nothing you can do. Can I appeal again to a real person? No, sorry, we can't do that. Should that be legal? Can you shut me down for something I didn't do and I can't even appeal to a real person? Should that be f***ing legal? They also got me for self-harm. For encouraging self-harm by making a metaphor, because we were talking about circumcision in the comments, and actually a pretty friendly conversation. And the guy we were kind of joking back and forth, and he says, "Hey man, if circumcised dicks are way better for getting blowjobs." And I was like, I disagree. Being uncircumcised, but I was like, that's like saying if you cut off your hand to be better at football. Like, and then they flagged that and gave me a content of a community guidelines violation for self-harm. For self-harm, for encouraging self-harm by saying that's like metaphor or analogy, whatever it is, cutting off your hand and saying that makes you better at football. Weird, right? Weird. That's why it matters. That's why getting involved here matters. That's why reforming 230 matters, but it's so partisan. It's so divided. There's this constant tug of war, and we just can't really get through it. So right now, we're stuck in the only thing worse than actual McCarthyism, which is just two-way McCarthyism, just accusing each other of things that may or may not be true, but it doesn't matter because news cycles are short and things can go viral. Weird times, guys. Weird times, but that's where I'm at with the Twitter files. Lots of stuff, lots of great information. Make sure to check out the Free Press and make sure to subscribe to Matt Taibbi. I'm sure he's making hella money right now after all this, but I'm stoked for him. I'm happy for him. He does a great job. I mean, he articulates things in such an amazing way. I'm super grateful to have him as a journalist in my literal content consumption cycle. I hope you're having a great day. You know what would make my day really, really good? Is if you subscribe to this channel, turn on post notifications, and like this video. It would mean a lot to me, and it would really help us overcome the content moderation that seems to have a bit of an influence on who sees our videos, when, where, and why. Make your day better, make my day better, and let's just move forward together.